There are many types of games out there that you can play with your friends or by yourself, but one of the better ones in my opinion is Chivalry 2. And that's mainly because Chivalry 2 has a treasure trove of lore. When it comes to the quality of it, it is superb. Now, you might be wondering yourself, where do I start then with this? And don't worry, because this video exists to be an introductory course into Chivalry lore. And we'll start, first of all, and pretty easy enough, with the important lore trailers for the game.
King Agathan grew restless with the peace. After uniting the lands of Agatha beneath his banner, the king declared a crusade upon the strange lands to the south. Yet his blind ambition would be his undoing, for the crusade failed, and the harsh desert sands soon became his grave. His death left the army and nation without a leader. And in the ensuing chaos, the king's top military commander seized the opportunity to claim the empty throne. When the remainder of the crusading army returned home, they discovered much had changed.
Civil war left our land in a state of ruin. Amidst the dust of Stone's Hill, Phaedrid, steward king of Agatha, was slain. "20 years have passed. Malric and his Mason order have ruled since with an iron fist, murdering, pillaging, squeezing the land of its spoils. Now, with winter, comes the rumor of a new leader, King Agathan II. As the lion roars, the noble houses rally, bringing forth the steel of the Agatha Knights. The grizzled old king welcomes the battles to come with the full might of the Mason Order. Once more, legends will be born. And after all this bloodshed, who will sit upon the throne?
Nice, those are pretty nice trailers, I would say. Let's move on then to the factions of this game. And I think it's best to start with the trailer for, well, Agatha and Mason respectively when its time comes. So enjoy that.
Blue as the sky where the gods guard over all. Gold as the sun which giveth life with its sprawl. The Agathan Knights stood and bled for justice and the great war. But alas, fell from glory, brought low by the traitorous Mason Order. For 20 years, our land has strained beneath the boot of the Masons. Yet the proud old families of Agatha do not forget their former glory, and pray for a leader to ignite the flames of noble rebellion. In the name of Agathan II, we shall reclaim the throne from the usurper. We will return a rightful rule to this country of valor and benediction. Once more, the lion shall roar. For Agathan! For the blue and gold!
Red for the blood that runs in our veins. Black for the shadow that yet remains. After King Argon and his foolish righteousness led us to slaughter in the Crusades, General Malric vowed to seize power and rid the land of weakness brought by birthright and blind loyalty. Since Malric's victory, the Iron Fist has hammered this land. Strong men, like good steel, are forged in the fires of hardship. Now the Lion of Agatha returns. How pathetic its last gasp comes as a mere whimper. May the slaughter make us stronger. For the Order! For the Red and Black!
And there is one more faction, but unfortunately this one doesn't have its own faction trailer. But it does have an interesting trailer related to some maps about it. But nevertheless, I'll begin telling you about this third faction, Tenosia. The strange lands to the south have long hovered as a distant threat over the lands of Agatha after the failed crusade that led to the death of King Argon I and untimely ignited the civil war between the Mason Order and the Agathian Knights. Now Tenosia strikes at Baldwin's bulwark, the long-standing barrier that has held these empires apart and stood unconquered for centuries. Rumors of devastating new technology threaten this ancient stronghold, and if it falls, the lands of Agatha shall burn and weep beneath the vengeance of the Tenosian Empire. The Empire is a sophisticated and academic culture which had enjoyed a long peace prior to the invasion of the First Crusades. That all changed when war was brought upon their shore by the barbarians to the north, and they have spent the last 20 years plotting their retaliation. Built mostly on harsh, arid lands, their people have adapted with wondrous engineering, city planning, and stargazing that leave their lands prosperous and rich. And there are of course two important characters that I want to talk about when it comes to Tenosia. Agathan, which is the person you hear a lot once you play the Tenosian part of a map. Following the chaos in Tenosia at the outset of the war, Agathan rose to power after a series of ruthless assassinations of her own family, who sat closer in line to the throne. While most of the nobility were content to cheer their victory in defending the Crusades, she knew how lucky they were the invaders had so underestimated the harsh climate. Their people had been allowed to grow fat and soft, and the great wealth of the empire was vulnerable. Through a unique mixture of ruthlessness and cunning, she convinced the nobility, often by example, that they could no longer afford to put aside the duty of war to the empire. The Tigress of Tenosia built her name and bolstered the imperial army on strong claims that she would not rest until the lands of the north were hers, or hell's. And the other important character, well, to a lesser degree, is Taharachman. Taharachman, master of the curved blades and leader of the imperial army, is considered the greatest warrior in Tenosia. He claims to have slayed King Argon I himself in single combat and has become a beloved champion to the Tenosian people. A rugged man of little words and swift action, he stands as the queen's right-hand man and her direct link to the military support of the empire. Now, I will leave you to watch the Tenosia invasion launch trailer to get a feel of the faction.
This rebellion is at an end. The Agathans flee to their stronghold in the north. This land is mine! Now Tenosia rises from the south. Kill them all! Throw the dogs back into the desert. Their forces will crash and break against the bulwark. If the wall falls, we must retaliate. Ready the ships! Long has Tenosia remained safe from my fury. No more. They dare to strike out at us. Their city will fall. Their people will bleed. Their knowledge will burn. My reign will never end.
Before I end this and leave you with the last trailer, the one for Regicide, which is my favorite, I want to talk about a few things. And the first of all is Barak Thorn, which is a person, by the way. It's a weird name. A renowned commander and warrior who fought alongside Phaedrid during the First Civil War, Barak Thorn was captured and taken prisoner shortly after Phaedrid's death. For 20 years he was tortured and displayed, enslaved as a symbol to those who dare claim their own strength as equal to Malric. For 20 years he endured punishment and spat in the face of the Order before his chains in Falmir. Next is the Archbishop Joff. The holy personification of the Temple of Light, Archbishop Joff preaches peacefulness in contrast to the constant bloodshed and the battle the people of Agatha engage in, preferring instead that people should follow the noble example set forth by the grazing animals, while others claim his influence as a driving force in sanctioning the newfound brutality of the Agathian Knights. The Archprecept presides over the holy monastery at Galancourt. From there, his 100 hands deliver his words throughout the kingdom. And finally, for this part of Agathian lore, let's look at the Agathian Royal Council. The council is formed of 7 nobles who represented the remaining power structure of Agatha when Phaedrid fell. Seeing the cause was lost, they jointly surrendered to Malric and the Mason Order in exchange for the preservation of Galancourt, return of Phaedrid's corpse, and other regional provisions. Following the increasing unrest from the nobility under Mason's rule, the council was reformed and preparations for the war were already underway when Argon II arrived to lead the effort. Members of the council include Comas Ironclin, the mentor of Argon II, Edward Keren, Phaedrid's uncle, as well as the Grand Merchant of Parodin, the Great Lady of Aranti, the Lord of Irila, and the Hand of the Church. While that is nice and all, I want to look at Mason, because Mason has some interesting lore here that I enjoy. And let's start with Sori Aragon, who is deceased, unfortunately. The daughter of King Aragon I and lover of Malric, Sori Aragon became pregnant with Malric's child just as the forces marched off to the crusade. Shortly after the night that her son Valen was born, Sori learned of her father's death. The childbirth and anguish were too much for the new mother to bear, and she fell into an illness that would claim her life mere days before she and Malric would have reunited. Or so does the tale as Malric recalls it. If he and Sori were indeed lovers, it was a most secretive affair. But of course it would have to have been, since Malric lacked the noble pedigree of the Aragons. And this is the Mason heir, Valen Trey. Malric's bastard son, born of Aragon's daughter. Born out of wedlock, he was given the local Vantir bastard name, Trey. From a young age, Valen received the highest caliber training in the arts of war and governance from a host of the greatest blade masters and strategists in the kingdom. His unending intensity in his studies was remarkable even to his teachers. They say he seemed to be driven by an unwavering desire to match the greatness of his father. Although the kingdom will one day be his, he has been given strict instructions to stay well within the shadow of his father, lest he draw Malric's ire. Let's move on to Olar the Wise. Not all strength is measured in brawn. Olar's physical form is as pathetic as his mind is impressive. Like any true genius, he is stricken by occasional bouts of madness and has an odd and off-putting fascination with rodents. Some suggest he is not fond of the Order and that he may even have been a slave forced to use his mind against his will. But that is, of course, just Agathian propaganda. Let's move on to the High Fort. The Mason Council, better known as the High Forge, gather in Trajan's citadel along with King Malric. This elite group are among the few granted direct access to Malric and work together to achieve Malric's vision for the kingdom and reforge the realm with brutal efficiency. Members include the Warlord of Vantir, the First Maiden of Marinar, the Great Reaper of Ranmor, the Prime of Barnima, and a man known simply as the Beak, a crooked old advisor who whispers in Malric's ear. It's all nice and well. And finally, I will leave you with the trailer for Regicide, and of course, the usual shilling. Like, comment, subscribe, rate, and I'll see you in the next one.
Our people suffer and die, yet the lion's whelp dares to strike now. Clear the rats from their nests. Butcher these Agathian pigs. Fight for your king!
Shatter that gate! The demon Malric Terrorwind cowers somewhere within! Once more, together, for Agatha!
Argon, come, I will reunite you with your father.
The reign of the Mason Order ends here, today, for Agatha!